Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County, and this show is about Plymouth County real estate. This is a show taped in November about our October activity at the Registry of Deeds. Our headline for the month was, "Even as the days get shorter, the sales and mortgage activity continues to rise." I'm going to have a guest in the second segment of the show, Bryan Parrish, Parrish Home Inspections. And in the third segment of the show, we're going to talk about some of our famous notable land records, a little bit of the history of Plymouth County. So let's go to the numbers. The first document you're going to see is a image of the deeds. It's a bar chart showing the recording activity for October of sales. There are 893 deeds recorded in October, down from the 973 recorded in September, 1% less than the 902 last October, yet year-to-date up 13%. Through the first 10 months of 2016, we're up 13% in terms of sales of property. The next bar chart you're going to see is of mortgages. We recorded 2,204 mortgages in October, less than the 2,229 in September, but up 22% compared to last October and 10% year-to-date. So far, mortgage rates have been low. Federal Reserve has some changes under consideration, but right now, people can get a great rate, certainly a tremendous time to purchase and/or refinance your property. The next chart you're going to see is of foreclosure deeds. A foreclosure deed is when a property has been taken back by the lender. It's obviously a negative recording. From the bar chart, you're going to see there were 71 foreclosure deeds in October, more than the 66 recorded in September, 51% more than last October, and with 10 months of data in the calendar year, we're 38% higher than last year. The next document in it, bar chart you're going to see is of foreclosure notices. A foreclosure notice is the first document we see at the registry that identifies someone's in trouble. 137 foreclosure notices were recorded in October, less than 170 in September, and up 5% over the first 10 months. And then you're going to see a listing of foreclosures by community, all 27 communities in Plymouth County. The higher numbers have been Brockton and Plymouth, and you can see that carries through the day. So our next training room session, we run a free training session on how to navigate our website, will be Thursday, December 8th at 9 o'clock. Please sign up in advance. Our website is PlymouthDeeds.org. Our number is 508-830-9290. Please be aware that we have a property fraud alert. If you sign up by giving your website, your personal email account, whenever something goes on record, you'll get notified. It's a good thing, it's free. A warning to you that if somebody tries to tell you that they can get you a copy of your deed for $83, don't do it, because you can go to our office and get a copy of your deed for $1 a page. There's a new notary law in place that we'll be talking about very shortly. And my guest on the next segment is Bryan Parrish of Bryan Parrish Home Inspections. Thought it was very important that we share with you the importance of home inspections when you are purchasing a property, and that many people are using a home inspection before they list their property so they know what they need to take care of. So we'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to the Register's Report. Again, my name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we always try to do something educational in nature. We've had commercial real estate brokers, appraisers, assessors, anyone involved in the chain of real estate, anyone in that area, some way that we can talk about things to let people know what they could be doing to protect or improve the value of their real estate. So I have a great guest on this show. I have Bryan Parrish. Bryan, how are you?
John, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, Bryan Parrish of Bryan Parrish Home Inspections. And you've been a guest before, and welcome back.
I have. Thank you for bringing me back. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think I'll just share with our viewers that I met you at a harvest fair in the town of Bridgewater at Bridgewater State College.
That's right.
And we had a chance to talk a little bit about your company and your job. And I know that people out there would find it very interesting, although they know that when they buy a house, they get a home inspector. And I think they're getting a little more aware in some cases that when they sell a house, sometimes it makes sense in advance to have a home inspector so that you know what easy things you can do to increase your value. But I do think it'd be great to hear from a home inspector like you to talk about your role and what you do and how you approach your job. But first of all, I think it'd be great if you could just tell everyone how you got involved in the real estate market as a home inspector.
Yeah, well, thanks, John. I've been a contractor for many years, licensed contractor in Mass, and mostly residential rehabbing type of work. And as time went on, one of my brother-in-laws is in the real estate, and he mentioned to me about getting involved with the home inspection industry, and that was in 2009. I looked into it.
Okay.
I started an apprentice program, which is about a 2-year apprenticeship. You walk around with another licensed inspector, and then you do 2 semesters of classroom work, and you take a national board exam, and once you pass all that, then you can apply to the state for a license. So it's a little bit involved, and then there's a lot of continuing education involved with the state that they ask you to stay up on a minimum of 12 hours a year, I believe it is, which is good. You know, but I got involved just to try to continue to work. I mean, construction is a young man's game, and I figured it's up to me to try to make a little change here if I want to continue working in my later years. So.
And what is your service area?
All of southeastern Mass. I live in Bridgewater. We met at the Bridgewater
Right.
Business Association. I do service all Plymouth area down on the Cape. I'll go over the bridge. I basically said an hour drive out. You know, I can hit the Hyannis or up, and even I've gone as far on 495 up to like Harvard, Mass. So it's a good adventure when we take a ride.
So how would you describe the function and role of a home inspector?
Well, the inspections are really about safety and maintenance. We walk around the properties and we evaluate the things that we can see on the day of the inspection. They're really kind of a picture in time, if you will. You know, I'm 3 or 4 hours on the property. I start on the exterior evaluating the roof. You know, a lot of roofs I'll walk on, but some of them I'll walk around with binoculars and evaluate what we can see with the roof structure. What's going on with it? Is it new? Is it 20 plus years old? Does it have any damage? And then I kind of work my way around the exterior of the house, looking at the siding, the gutters, all the way down with the windows and the entryways, and see, you know, what type of shape it is, and if we have any damage from water. I talk to people, telling them that water is kind of our enemy. It's nice when we have a cold drink, but when it comes uninvited into our home, it can give us a headache. So I do walk around the whole exterior, going through, like I said, the siding and the windows, and then I get into the foundation and see. In New England, we have a whole variety of different foundations, starting years ago in the early 1600s with just fieldstone, and then they started with some granite block, and eventually they started with concrete block, and then they changed over to concrete, poured concrete. So there's a lot of different variables in just the foundations alone.
Yeah, my house is a 1789 house, and so it has all those stages of construction as they add it on.
Right, right.
know?
And that's one thing that, we look at is, a lot of homes have additions. Some of the additions might have a crawl space. If that's the case, then I'll put a suit on and a mask and get underneath the crawl space. When I probe around looking for signs of, like I said, water, if I know there's been some water entry, then we focus on that area and try to see if there's any wood destroying pests. That's part of the inspection for me, as I get involved with the wood destroying pests. Want to see if they are indeed infesting the property, or was there some old damage or things like that. And there's a little involved to when you see some type of pest damage, to determine what type of pest it might be, whether it's simple things that we all know about, a carpenter ants or termites. But there's more than 30,000 type of beetles out there. Some of them are wood destroying pests, and some of them are not. They're just nuisance.
So typically, how do you come in contact with somebody that you're doing a home inspection for?
Well, that's one thing that I continue to do, and again, I want to thank you for inviting me here.
Sure.
But I belong to different chambers, the Plymouth Area Chamber of Conference, the Middleborough, they call it the Cranberry Chamber, and I'll visit different associations with that. Also, in my line of work, there's the American Society of Home Inspectors. I belong to that organization. We have a national website, and then there's a New England chapter that meets in Randolph. We happened to do a class last night up in Woburn. It was a 6-hour afternoon of classroom and dinner, but that was all on the wood destroying pests and what to search for. But the different marketing, I believe, is I'll visit local real estate offices and lawyers, banking institutions. I can put on a first-time buyer presentation. I did one last week over in Taunton, was the Bristol County Savings Bank. They invited me in to put on a little presentation for them and things like that. So there's a variety, there's a mix that will keep things moving for us.
So do you primarily receive your call from individuals or realtors?
Yeah, individuals.
Okay.
Individuals that have either had an offer accepted or they're about to have an offer accepted, and they try to get some time frame, because rule of thumb is 10 days once the offer is accepted, they'll give somebody to get the inspection completed. So.
And right in the purchase and sale, they usually is language relative to home inspections.
Yes, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
good. So why don't you just, let's talk about the report that you put together and how you mix your viewing with filling out the report.
Yeah, so the reports, my reports are based, computer-based. I do stop, as I walk around the property, I'm stopping from time to time, taking some notes into that software and building a report for a client. So just like I said, if we're walking around the exterior, I'll be making notes on the roofing, the condition of the roofing, what I recommend. Gutters, if the gutters are installed, is there any downspouts, is the water being directed away from the home? And then I'll recommend, if it's not, let's push the water as far away from the foundation as we can. The condition, of course, is what we talk about on the day of the inspection. I'd really like to be able to predict the future, but I cannot do that. But I try to evaluate what we can see on that day. And then as I'm going through the property, I'll get into the basement and I'll look at all your different mechanicals, and we'll take our time pulling the covers off the heating systems, seeing how they're functioning, turning on the thermostat, evaluating that, and then we do the same thing with the hot water. How's the hot water being fed to the house? And many homes in this area, the Plymouth area, have a lot of private wells.
Right.
We can evaluate the well system. If you want to test the water, we can have the water tested for you. The private wells are a little different than most communities have town water, where they're going to be pumping the water in. So that we'll evaluate the piping that comes into the home. There's still some areas in the state that have still some lead pipes that are feeding water into our home. So those are things that we would make notes of and say, well, for me, a lead pipe is a concern for a consumer. You'd want to have that changed out, or talk to somebody about what you can filter to make it safe to drink.
So as code changes or standards change, does your report might reflect that? Is that?
Well, the reports aren't really based on code. I do
Okay.
have some knowledge of building code,
Okay.
and I do talk to people about that. But
Okay.
what I try to stress on is it's about the safety and maintenance. Like I said, if I
Okay.
find a lead water pipe coming
Sure.
in the house, for instance, I'm going to say that this is a safety concern.
Right.
Yesterday I was on a property and we're looking at in the electrical panel. Now outside I was looking at what we would consider a drip loop where the 3 cables come into the home. And there really wasn't one. It was basically the wires were going straight into the home.
Okay.
So when that happens, the water's not allowed to drip off, the gravity doesn't take over. And more times than not, the water will come into your panel in your basement. And then, of course, we know that water and electricity don't play well
Sure.
together,
Sure.
and we have a problem. So this particular house, when I spotted that, I'm stopping, making notes in the report that this is really a fire hazard. So somebody should be in there pronto and getting it evaluated and servicing it, you know.
Now, I know we talked before, and there's a trend, it seems, that many people are choosing to get home inspections prior to listing the house.
That's right.
Talk
That's
about
right.
that a little bit.
Yeah, homeowners, I mean, actually, today, the American Society of Home Inspectors are advising people to inspect your home every 5 years. Whether or
Okay.
not you're going to sell it or you're going to move, doesn't matter, because we want to know what's going on with our home. So if you are going to sell, a lot of people have been calling me the last few years saying, can you come in and inspect our home before we put it on the market? Let's find out what's going on. So if they have to make some corrections, or at least they have the information, and then they can disclose to somebody buying it saying, well, we found out that there was water in the electrical panel, for instance, and we brought an electrician in and we changed that out and we had that all repaired. Or you know, there might be any number of things that they might correct, and then they might say, well, we know that the roof is 20 years old, but we feel it's still going to have a few years of service life, so we're going to leave that for whoever else might move in.
Right.
And it's been more proactive. I think people are getting involved with inspection before they put it on the market. The last year and a half, last 2 years, the market has really changed. There's been a lot more sellers market. There's been a lot of activity, as you know.
Sure, it's been a busy time.
Yeah.
So if you're a person looking to buy a home, and all of a sudden something pops up unexpected, they do have the option, based on the home inspection, to opt out of the sale. How often has that happened that you've come across?
I don't know if that's very often. The
Okay.
real estate people would
know more, yeah.
know more on that, but I know it does happen. It depends on any number of circumstances, what people are comfortable with.
Yeah.
It's all, as the line goes, location, location,
Sure,
location. If
sure.
we love this property, we're gonna fix it up and do what we want to make it our home.
So let's talk about a couple hypothetical, unusual cases that you came across, and how you reported that on your report. You know, any particular memories you have of a home inspection that was unusual? You came across something unusual?
Yeah, there's probably a few. Thinking back again, that lead pipe scenario.
Sure.
That was something that there's not a lot of them still remaining.
Okay.
But so for me, it's a little unusual, and you know, that's a safety concern. So I would want the prospective buyer to know about that, and then they talk with the local town to find out what's cost involved to repair this. You know, because as a licensed inspector in Mass, we don't throw numbers around saying this is going to be thousands of dollars or whatever the case might be to repair it. We just give them the information and then ask you to get a qualified proposal ahead of time to see what you're up against. That's something that...
And I know we talked before, sometimes there are seasonal issues. We live in a seasonal marketplace
Yep.
here in New England, and there are many times people want to buy in the winter, and there's the roof has snow.
Snow on it, exactly, yep.
You want to talk a little bit how you deal
Yeah,
with
that's
that?
a little more difficult, really, to evaluate it when it's snow covered. There's not a whole lot we can see, but we do get into the attics and try to
Right.
look on the underside, see what type of shape the sheathing would be, whether it's old planks or newer plywood. And then there's always, we come up with questions for homeowners. The people that are selling the property, you can simply ask them, you know, do you know the age of this roof? Have you been in the house like yourself for a long time?
Sure.
So you know you replace the roof 13 years ago.
Right.
And so on. But yeah, as far as the reports, when it's winter time, I do walk around, and I think we talked about this last time. I have some snowshoes that I'll put on and
Right.
utilize, because I like to walk around the property
Sure.
and evaluate all we can,
Yeah.
and see what's going on that particular day. I do ask people, as far as snow and snow removal, to pay attention to your decks out back.
Right.
A lot of times people forget about the decks, and when we have snow out there and it starts to melt, well, it tends to creep in to our home, the water.
Right.
Most entryways, whether it's a front stairs or a back deck or a slider, there are also entryways for water to creep into our basement and cause damage. So that's things that even though I know I don't see any water on that particular day, I could see signs of past water and talk to people about that and let them know that they should be shoveling and paying attention. I know we generally kind of pay attention to our driveway and then get exhausted and forget about the rest.
Yes, and so I know you touched on it a little bit, but just relative to education, you had the training thing to begin with, but you're also one of the professions that require continuing education.
That's right. That's
Want
right.
to talk about that?
So in Massachusetts, like I said, I believe it's a 12-hour minimum on an annual basis. So every 2 years, we're up for a new license.
Right.
What I get involved with, like I said, is the American Society of Home Inspectors. So we meet on a monthly basis, and we'll do 3 hours each month to give us a different topic that we'll work with. So that gives me above and beyond what I need. The other thing I do is I get involved with the construction supervisor license. It's another continuing education. For me, they intertwine.
Sure.
A lot of the information is connected. But for Massachusetts licensing purposes, you have to keep them separate. You have to do that separately. So there's always something you can do. The other thing that we have done is we've taken field trips, like over in Norwood, there's Certainteed Roofing Manufacturing.
Okay.
We went for a tour of that plant, and they gave us, all day long, showed us all the process they go through with the fiberglass and the asphalt to make the shingles, and the different shingles that they put on the market. And shingles are sold by base weight. The heavier the base weight, the longer lasting they'll be.
Okay.
And that's one type of educational thing. Just recently, we did a tour down in Rhode Island. It was Wiesmann boiler manufacturer out of Germany.
Okay.
And they have a plant there in Rhode Island, and they gave us, again, a 3 or 4 hour tour and an education of the different boilers that they put on the market. There's a lot of new technology they call high efficiency systems.
Okay.
So that's something we try to stay abreast with and look for the new stuff that's coming out. What are they doing with it? So
I'm getting a signal that we're running out of time,
Okay.
but I want you to share your contact information with the public here.
Yep, you can contact me at parrishhomeinspections.com. I'm also at Bryan Parrish. It's Bry, B-R-Y. Parrish is P-A-R-R-I-S-H @me.com. Like I said, you can look me up on Facebook or the Plymouth Chamber website. I do have a Bridgewater Business Association. I got my name out there in a few different places.
And a
so-
number? You want to do a number?
Yeah, it's 508-631-5874.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you,
Good
John.
to see you again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Patriotism. It inspires passionate debate. It's worn like a badge of honor with good reason, because it means love and devotion for one's country. But what really makes up this country of ours? It's the people. To love America is to love all Americans. This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Love beyond age, sexuality, disability, race, religion, and other labels. Because love has no labels.
I want to thank Bryan Parrish of Bryan Parrish Home Inspections for the great job he did on describing the role of home inspectors. They're a very important part of the real estate chain of ownership and making sure you get what you paid for. And again, the trend now is that people are doing home inspections prior to listing their property so they can make their home more valuable for buyers when they see them. In this segment of the show, we always try to do something lighter in nature. We talk about some of the holidays in the month. Election Day has come and gone past, a very historical election, as I'm sure you know. Veterans Day has come and gone, and we're rapidly approaching one of my favorite holidays, the holiday of Thanksgiving. We try to show some of our notable land records in this segment, a little bit of our great history here in Plymouth County. We recently did a office hours program in the town of Whitman, in Whitman Town Hall, and when I walked out the backside of Whitman Town Hall, you face the tremendous Whitman Town Park. It's a beautiful jewel in the town of Whitman, and it was designed by the Olmsted family. Frederick Law Olmsted was the son of the renowned architect Frederick Law Olmsted, whose projects included Central Park, the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Certainly people know the Emerald Necklace in Boston and some other projects down this way. But his son, Frederick Law Olmsted Jr., took over a project that they were working on for the Whitman Town Park and beautified that area. It was donated to the town of Whitman by a gentleman by the name of Frederick Whitman, Augustus Whitman, and Whitman later took the name of Whitman from the town of South Abington in honor of his generosity and the generosity of the family. But it's a beautiful park. The connection is to Olmsted. Frederick Olmsted Jr. later bought a piece of property in Plymouth, became known as Olmsted Terrace, and it was established as a town way. The next notable land record I'm going to show you is a notable land record of Irving and Sidney Franklin. For many of us that watched the World Series, you saw the batters were wearing Franklin sporting gloves. A lot of people don't realize it. They came from the Franklin family. They were sons of scrap leather dealers in Brockton that used the scrap leather to develop sporting goods, became the tremendous sporting chain known as Franklin Sports. People like Joe Namath, Terry Bradshaw, Sugar Ray Leonard advertised those programs, and certainly most major league batters wear Franklin sporting gloves. And our last notable record reflectant of the season is John Alden. Many people remember the John Alden story, mostly from the poem by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, The Courtship of Miles Standish, when John Alden, who had been a cooper on the Mayflower, one of the first settlers, on behalf of Miles Standish, was courting Priscilla Alden. John Alden later moved to Duxbury. The Alden home is still maintained in Duxbury, and clearly one of the great stories of the arrival and survival of the colonists. And visit the Alden House if you haven't done it already. The Alden Kindred of America really work hard to promote that. I want to thank PAC TV, Lorna Green and Christine Richards for helping me put this show together. David Antoine produced this show, and I want to thank them for allowing me to share this information with the people of Plymouth County. So thank you for watching the show. I'll see you next month, and have a happy Thanksgiving.